Hey, what's up? Liron here, and in this video I want to share with you a pretty amazing discovery I had in regards to wet in wet technique that will really improve your control. The way I found it was funny enough through doing this illustration, believe it or not, but I think it's going to really help you understand how to move the paint correctly, get a softer or harder edge in wet. So let's get to it. So I want to show you once again the painting that really helped me realize this was, funny enough, this one of Mew. It's a Pokemon. Now if you look at it from up close, you'll notice that I really was, I believe, able to get these very nuanced transitions. For example, here it's very soft where the shape is rounded. Here you get a bit of a slightly sharper edge. And it really conveys, there's a part that's a little lighter. It really conveys the shape of its face. And funny enough, this is what helped me realize how to achieve this effect. So let me zoom in a bit here. And I want to show you how this works because I'm just amazed that I've never seen like anyone talk about this. I don't know if I'm really onto something or whatever, but what I'm gonna do is pre-wet this area, okay? First steps. Now my water obviously isn't as clean, but it doesn't matter for the effect we're trying to achieve here. All I care about is pre-wetting the area. And actually, the fact that the water is slightly tinted is good because you can see it. You don't have to rely on a sheen. But so let's say this is my pre-wet area. Now, if it's too wet, you can always pick back some of it up. So here's the thing. Here's how this works. I'm gonna mix some paint here. That's gonna be obviously thicker than the water because I do want it to stay. And look at what happens. So here's this is it. If I move the brush while I move it, you see how I get a fairly controlled edge? It's still blurry, but it's fairly controlled. As soon as I lift it, see what happens? It starts moving. That's the huge epiphany I had. So let me show it to you again. Let's grab a bit more paint. I'll show you again. As long as the brush moves, you get that control. But once I lift it off paper, that's when it blends. If I dab, it moves, okay? It moves. But if I move the brush on paper, it stays in pretty much the same place. So that teaches you, and again, it will move a little later on. That will depend on your timing, but that really does show you that a big part of it is the movement. So let me show you this in action in some spheres, and then we'll do the final thing here. Hopefully I'm not too zoomed in, but let's do this. So I'm gonna pre-wet this oval shape, and if I want to get a somewhat controlled edge, all I really have to do is keep moving the brush in a way. I know it's funny, but that's how I figured it works. Now I am picking back some of the wetness up. I want this to be kind of mildly wet, but not too much. And then let me grab some of this pinkish color, similar to what I've shown you in the painting. And I'm just gonna do it. Now, you can use a smaller brush and then you'll have even more control, but look at it. As long as I keep moving the brush, I will get a fairly controlled edge. Now, as soon as I pick it up, you see it starts moving. And that's really the gist of it. That's like, it should be the shortest, quickest tip video I can give you. Now, as an aside, if you see it moves too much, you can always come back with a slightly dry brush, kind of pick some of it up. But even then, when you raise it, it's gonna make some of the paint blend, okay? Now, here's a cool way of using this. If you want to actually use it for some kind of a purpose, you can pre-wet the area. And now here, notice the kind of line I drew here. I want a sharp edge here and a blurry edge here. So I'm gonna keep moving where I want the edge to be sharp, like so. And then I'm only gonna lift here at the bottom, see? And that way it moves a little more than it moved here. So this is the quick tip for you. Now I'm gonna use this tip to basically recreate this shape of the face here, just a very basic first wash shape of the face, nothing too fancy really. So I'm gonna pre-wet the whole thing, and this is beautiful. The old Pokemon style involved a lot of watercolor, and so you get these beautiful effects of the watercolor, and a lot of people who are attracted to this retro look like seeing the artwork and the older cards and posters and all of that. So I have the area already wet. Now, if I tilt it a bit, you may be able to see the sheen. Here we go. You see it? So it's kind of wet. It's not super, like, it's not soaking wet. It's not moving too much. It's just a little wet. And I'm gonna get started. So I'm gonna use this as kind of my map. And I see this area here is kind of wet. It's kind of pink-ish. I'm using a slightly darker value for this one, but that's fine. Now here I'm gonna keep moving because I want the edge to be a little more controlled, and here I'm gonna lift it back up. Here I'm okay with some more movement. And here I'm definitely okay with some more movement. Same here. And make this a little more blurry. And again, obviously I'm using a bit of a darker value, but you get to see how it's controlled. Now, let me do one more thing. I'm gonna lift back some of it here to get the effect of kind of a bump there around the eye. So that better indicates the shape of the head. So I'm coming back with a dry brush and kind of picking up a highlight here. You see a little exaggerated, but that's fine. And the more you wait, obviously, the more control you're gonna have on the movement and on everything. Here I can just drop a dot. And that's how you'd approach this. Again, nothing too fancy. It's just a quick example. Now this may look strange because it's still wet. I haven't added any of the line work, so it looks much darker than it actually is. Let me zoom out a bit. I'm still getting used to the colors of this camera, and I always find that I need to edit them, make them a little warmer. But in any case, you can see as soon as this dries, it'll get closer to this. Obviously here I used a bit of a lighter paint, but you get to see this, like even here, look at this. Where I moved the brush, it stayed kind of the same area. Now obviously you can wait, allow it some more time to dry, but where I really lifted it up, there was a lot more movement. Let me show it to you again. This time we're gonna keep it a little more controlled. So I'm gonna pre-wet this area here, just a bit. Like this. Now instead of immediately putting in the wet in wet effect, we're gonna allow it a few moments to dry. Now, if you can see the wet area, it's here. Haven't marked it, but here it is. So I'm gonna keep wetting it just a bit. I prefer to start at a very wet, an equally wet point, and then from there wait. So let's actually look at this together. Sorry about all the noise, a bunch of cars. So you see, we have a nice sheen. If we want to get rid of some of that, we'll kind of come back and lift back. And the secret really is to wait for the right timing in order to get the transitions you want. And look at the difference here. That's really starking. Here I kept moving the brush, and here I kind of let it go. And look at how much movement we have here. This is a great way of controlling the edge. Now, I'm still new to it. I don't really have a good grasp on it yet, as you can see. But I'm just trying to show you the concept so that you can use it as well. Now this feels kind of damp in the right way, so I'm gonna do this. So moving the brush, moving, very controlled edge, and as soon as I raise it, you'll get a bit more movement. Now again, it's also a matter of timing, how thick the paint is in my brush, but compare that to just dabbing. Look at how much movement I get in the dabbing as opposed to the movement. Look at the edge here. See? So that's a great way of controlling your edges. Just make sure you move the brush. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Now we can wrap it up. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this very quick and specific tip. I find that ever since I discovered it, I'm making use of it all the time, and I'm really having in mind where I want to just glide the brush over the wet area and where I want to stop and maybe dab it a bit, and I avoid dabbing it where I don't want the paint to move too much, okay? So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to drop a like, a comment below, subscribe if you still aren't. I really do appreciate it. Check out the frustration-free watercolor course. Link is in the description box below if you want to let go, enjoy the process, and I will see you again in the next vid.